Hello, officials, and thank you for joining for this week's edition of Football Teaching Tapes from the Wyoming High School Activities Association. This is Tyler Spear, your state coordinator of football officials. And again, I thank you for your time. Got a set of plays this week that um, were shared with me, one by an official and the other by a coach. And I think they're just some good reminders for us this week. And as we move forward this season, just to keep our minds sharp, to have a good pregame meeting, and ultimately just make sure that we're ready to officiate games on Friday nights. So this first play was sent to me by an official, and I want to thank this official and this crew for reaching out. This one got me as I was sitting down for dinner after our game on Friday night, and it was a really, really good question about. Well, I'll just let it go. It's a little tough to see on this, but I'm going to play it through a couple times, and then we'll go ahead and we'll talk about it. So as you start with this play, I want you to see we've got typical down and distance. I think it's 1st and 10. Watch the ball. It's a screen and it comes right into the middle here. And as the play goes through here, what you'll see is that the defense swatted, but in speaking with this crew, it was pretty clear that the pass was not touched by the defense. So there's that clarification that I want to make sure that we highlight. Um, and if you look closely, I'm letting it load so I can play it again here. Um, if you look closely, what you'll see is the pass bounces off of an offensive lineman's helmet and then is caught by and he advances it beyond the line to gain for a first down. And then you'll see the back judge throw a flag in here. And the flag is for what you might think it's for, which is illegal touching of a forward pass. Now, that's where things got interesting. Let me pause this real quick. I want to refresh it. That's where things got interesting because the question before the House was, does this constitute illegal touching? And so let me zoom this up again. And as this goes, we'll go ahead and we will look this up. So I'll let this go. I want to play this multiple times just so that you guys can have a chance to see this. Okay, so obviously an interesting question. And the question before the House was, does this constitute illegal touching, this forward pass being contacted by an offensive lineman? He was, really in or around the neutral zone. So that's not necessarily part of the equation here, but still a good question. And before I read this answer, think about what you might decide on this one yourselves or amongst your crew. And what I'll tell you is that when you have that made up, I'll go ahead and just let the cat out of the bag for you here. If you go on your rule books to Rule 7, Article 5, Section 13, so 7-5-13, it reads as follows. An ineligible A player, it is an illegal forward, or excuse me, it's illegal touching if an ineligible A player has illegally touched a forward pass if he bats, muffs, or catches a legal forward pass unless that pass has first been touched by B. So, as we look at this, pretty interesting, but as I look at 7-5-13, a doink off the helmet is not a bat, a muff, or an attempt or a catch at a legal forward pass. So interesting. Totally get why this was thrown because we have it is technically the ball makes contact with an ineligible A player, but one of those things where you probably see it and go, that makes sense. Always good to dig in the rule book and certainly understand no digs thrown here. Just an interesting one that made us all kind of look and go, wait a second, what is the story here on this rule? So, really, thanks again to this crew for sending this in. It was a unique one. So, we'll look at it one more time and then we'll move forward here. Don't see too much of those. I'll admit, without seeing it on film, one of the other questions I asked was, where did all this happen? Because there's a chance that we could have potentially had an ineligible player downfield because of an ineligible player downfield just because of where all this happened, and then A catches the ball. But none of that, just an interesting play overall. So, yeah. And as you can see now, we've transitioned to the next set of plays, and I apologize for the vid swap here. It doesn't quite let me zoom in any more than this, but hopefully it's still visible for you. Two plays back to back here that I think are really good things for us to look at here. So we have 2nd and 8. We'll say we're on the 18-yard line. We'll go ahead and let this go. Formation looks good. And if you look at the wing official at the top of the screen, his key is this tackle. And even though the flag might be a touch late, I absolutely agree. We'll back this up here. And if you watch our offensive tackle here, he's going to be our guilty party. And it's pretty clear to see that he's beat and then he cheats. And we'd call that a jerk and restrict, right? Because he is beat. And after the defender gets by him, he just gives him a yank that keeps him away from the quarterback. And so totally support that flag. If we move on with this and look at the mechanics of our officials, line judge, good mechanics getting downfield. Looking at that, and then we come together here for this penalty enforcement. So again, good get by this head linesman. Clearly his key that did this foul. And, maybe the referee could have had a look at this as he's looking through the quarterback to that tackle, but it depends on where that nearest threat is coming from. So really a good one here. We'll go ahead and speed through this piece of it. But yeah, clearly an OH and that jerk and restrict bucket. We enforce it from the previous spot. Good job, guys. Now we'll look and we'll see that we're at the 9. Now, the 9 is kind of no man's land, right? So we need to be thinking about who's got goal line responsibility. Referee, wings, you're going to want to talk about that. It's a pretty tough situation. Sometimes we let the formation dictate, but let's just make sure that we know who has goal line responsibility in this situation as well. So I'm going to go ahead and let this play, and then after it goes, then we'll talk about it. And I'm speeding it up because I'll let you know that, as you can see, the offensive player goes all the way for 6. And even though we only played through it once, I wonder maybe if you caught it. And so a couple things on this play. We read screen, QB action goes into the end zone. Referee, I don't know if we talk about this and comfort level is part of it, but be thinking about getting to that goal line because you're the only one that's going to have an opinion on that. And if he were to try and draw on this, that's going to be in your wheelhouse. I don't think your wings are going to be able to help you from the 9. But what I want you to look at, folks, is we had a middle screen, and we'll just go ahead and let it go one more time, and then we'll talk about it. Okay. Here's where we're at. Head linesman, you stayed home. That's good. Line judge, I would like you to have stayed home as well. Your help was needed on this particular play. So wing officials, this is why we're asking you to stay home, because this particular play really exacerbates that. And so if we watch on our middle screen here, that receiver catches that ball at what looks to be the 11-yard line. Now, our line of scrimmage is the 9. And the last thing is we've got ourselves a hog molly, and he's clearly 6 yards downfield. So this is a biggie, guys. And, the angle is deceiving a little bit, and hopefully this crew talked about it. I mean, they let the touchdown stand. I'd hope this crew talked about it at least, but I'll tell you from my angle, this looks to be an IDP, an ineligible downfield player, because you do have these big guys downfield, and it looks to me like this running back caught this beyond the line of scrimmage. Okay, and remember, this is just beyond the line of scrimmage. This isn't an expanded neutral zone situation, right? And so wing officials, this is why you got to stay home. We're telling our umpires not to step up to the line of scrimmage. That's not what we want them to do. The umpire, he adjusts on this to get out of the way of that defender. We like that. Um, I think he's actually right about where he needs to be. I would say you could stand still. You might be able to see a little bit better on some of these blocks if you're not moving around. But so work on that a little bit. But also, you've got a middle screen coming at you, so I can see the need to kind of be on your toes a little bit. But wing officials, this is where you can absolutely crew save. And so make sure we're talking about why we're staying home and what it's for, because as you can see, he takes this to the house on a 2nd and long. And as much as it stinks from a workout standpoint to have ran all those yards, this one needs to come back, in my opinion. So mechanically, let's just make sure that we know why we're doing what we're doing, make sure we're staying home when we need to, right? And ultimately, somebody be a crew saver on this one, because it sure looks like this one is a candidate for one of those where we should have had yellow on the field. So I tell you all that, a little bit quicker video this week than last week's. I tell you all that just to say, folks, we're getting into the nitty gritty time of the season. We're past halfway, and our mechanics and the things that we do as officials really need to shine. Our communication is key. Our coaches are looking for us to communicate with them. We need to communicate with players, and we need to communicate with each other. So that is super important right now. Our mechanics need to be clean. We need to know who's covering what. Just like in the first play of this particular set of plays, where that wing official kept his eye on his tackle because that was his key and caught a hold that needed to be got. Excellent job there. So let's just make sure. Let's walk through play scenarios. Okay, sweep to me, sweep away for you umpires and referees. All right, for wing officials, short pass, long pass, communicating with your back judge who has inside and outside receivers. How do we march penalties? How do we do measurements? What are the exceptions for PSK, and on and on and on. So just because we're through the thick of it, it's the end of the middle school and lower level seasons. It's crazy busy. Let's make sure we're still taking care of these things when we pregame on a Friday night. Let's not take anything for granted. But the best part of all this, and I'll close with this. I'll let this play go. The best part of all this is we have officials in this state that want to get better, and I want to say thank you to each of you for committing to that. It's never easy. I don't want it to feel like people are sweating, thinking, "Oh God, Tyler's going to put me on film." It's not what this is for. I love when we get to dig into film or dig into a rule and figure out what the skinny is on a rule. So this is good for all of us. And I really appreciate that there are officials out there that are willing to communicate, that coaches are willing to communicate with us. Oh, didn't go back far enough. And so I would just say, let's all make sure that even though we're tired, even though we're in the thick of things, let's make sure that we are just mastering our craft every single week and communicating well, working well, the whole bit there. So thanks again to these crews. My thanks again to each of you for all your hard work this season. And I wish you the best of luck for the rest of the season. As always, reach out with any questions you might have, and would love to continue to visit with you. So go ahead and let this go. But thanks again. This is Tyler Spear, your state coordinator of football officials, wishing you a great week and some safe travels, and have a good night under the lights.